You're online, Kyle, please start.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another edition, a double edition, yet again, of VCTV. I'm Kyle Lacotte, your host, and we are excited today. Why? Well, it's Thursday. But also, again, we've got two mega packed episodes. We're going to be talking about everything that's happening in the investment world right now, because as we've talked about all week, it is not slowing down. Even though people may think so, it is not. We've got new venture funds, we've got new fundings, and not just small, but large rounds that are happening at all stages in all parts of the world. Funding has not slowed down, I repeat. And next, we're going to be talking about impact investing. So we've got a whole lot of content for you guys today. And I'm joined so excitingly by some of my favorite human beings in the world and astound panelists and brilliant individuals. There you go. I've teed you all up, so you can't mess it up now. Nonetheless, I am joined by some outstanding investors who we've brought together from various corners of around the world to share with us today what's happening in venture capital. And like I said, we've been talking about this all week in different technologies. We've talked a little bit about what's happening in Latin America. We've also talked a little bit about what's happening in Africa and in Europe, the US, and Asia. But we spent a lot of time yesterday around Latin America. Keep in tune to that. Now, what's happening in venture capital? Again, I repeat, it's not slowing down. There are investments happening left and right. Investors are looking for new opportunities. What we've heard and what we've seen in previous episodes of VCTV is have an idea or product or a service that suits an actual use case. Let's start there, all right? Second, what we're finding as well is that there's a lot of investors that are looking for not what just solves problems now, but what is looking towards the future. Okay, there's a lot that has happened, as we all know, in the past 6 to 8 months, but now it's time to look towards the future. What's going to happen? What's going to be impactful for the next 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 years and beyond? And all of our guests will fit in each of those boxes and share more with you. But first and foremost, audience, thank you so much for joining us today. To those that are tuning in, if you like what you hear, click subscribe, give us a thumbs up. And for those that are investors, we'd love to have you on the show. If you're interested in sharing your thoughts and insights like our guest today, reach out to Elena, to the LATOKEN team, and or myself. We'd be happy to find a spot for you. Entrepreneurs, as you'll see later today, this is not just a stage for investors, also a stage for you. If you'd like the chance to come on VCTV and actually pitch us as investors, your company, we'd love to have you along with our entire live audience. And without further ado, I have to give out a big thank you to Elena, to LATOKEN, and to the entire team for making VCTV possible every single day, multiple times a day on all screens, all devices, anywhere you may be in the world. Let's have some fun. All right. Guest, welcome back to the show. It's an absolute pleasure to see each of you. Even though we've had a little fun pre-show, we have to be serious now and enjoy ourselves a little bit further and share some great insights. So Vikram, I'm going to start with you. A little introduction, a little background on yourself.
I'm sitting here in Mumbai in India. I run a venture capital fund. We invest in Series A, Series B. We have about $200 million of assets under management. We invest across different sectors, fintech, consumer tech, agri-tech, B2B SaaS companies. Yeah, so that's what we do.
Awesome. Well, welcome. Excited to talk about that late stage, especially in India. As we know, there is a ton happening. We spoke a lot yesterday around the gaming industry, where we've had multiple guests in the past few weeks tell us all that's happening around gaming, and specifically even more so around education. We've seen a number of huge financial investments in India. So Vikram, we're coming back. Hold all that excitement in. Hold it in. Mark.
Happy to. Mark Mulay.
My fellow coffee drinker.
Where's my Hawaiian coffee cup? Here we go.
There you go. Coming from Hawaii. All right.
No, but I'm calling in from Seattle. So I would usually say the best thing next to Seattle in the winter is the short direct flights to all the Hawaiian Islands. But well, world has changed a little bit, so we will see. So Former, yeah. Living here next to Seattle, former Microsoftie, retired, founded a couple of cash flow positive businesses, including the EdgeTech Consulting Group, and started investments about 10 years ago. Especially in the startup environment. I'm a member of the Alliance of Angels. That's one of the oldest. Bill Gates' fathers founded it here, investing in startups in the Pacific Northwest. I'm a member of the Swan Fund, investor into Blockcelerate. And I'm also managing member of Codex 3. That's a private investor group that is focusing on global blockchain investments.
Wonderful. My favorite subject. We just saw BlockFi just closed a Series C of over $50 million. Had some other big announcements in that space around blockchain as well. Some big money. New funds. Electric Capital. What? $110 million and more coming? All right, let's keep it going. To the one and only, the man of mystery, the one who may be human, who may be robotic. AI is the new electricity. There you go, Gary Fowler. I saved it for today. Welcome
You're
back.
amazing. You got it. I'm waiting for it. Okay. Well, I appreciate it. I'm not worthy. Thank you. Anyhow, my name's Gary Fowler. It's great to see friends here today. And I'm a serial entrepreneur and investor. I've done 15 companies. The largest exit was Click Software, 1.35 billion. I was on the original team. I love artificial intelligence, as Kyle said. I believe it is the new electricity. I started the first accelerator in Russia. I've also started the largest corporate private accelerator globally. I was one of the co-founders of that. And we believe that with the pandemic, it gives us extraordinary opportunities for investing and shows just like this, opportunities just like this to meet, to be able to do the things we used to do at Hobie's and on El Camino Real in Palo Alto. This really gives an opportunity to be able to connect the dots and gives an opportunity for the startups to be able to understand exactly what's happening in the world today. Because, by the way, it is changing very, very quickly. So thank you very much, Kyle.
Absolutely. We had Nicole on yesterday. I forgot to mention, we had Nicole yesterday from How Women Invest, and they just closed their first fund as well. So more exciting news, Gary, on to what you're working on. A very exciting new fund that has just emerged. And last but not least, Crypto Superwoman, the most knowledgeable expert I've had the pleasure of speaking with around space, blockchain, crypto, and a few other items as well. Irina, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be back. I feel like years went by and it's only been a week. You know, I look forward to this so much, and how the way you always start the panel gets us all so excited, and your wonderful introductions are just so grateful for you and for what you guys are doing. My name is Irina Litchfield. I'm founder of Lumeria. We just pivoted a little bit and expanded more. So expanding the scope, moving not just from space, but for other innovations. So concentrating on connecting capital to innovations. I am a founder and CEO of Blockchain Cubed. It's a financial technology and blockchain integration company. I advise to several funds, and I am also accredited investor. And I've been enjoying deploying my interest, which is money, and advising the funds as well, and for a number of years. And it's been really pleasant. I think of myself as an angel, but I don't participate in angel companies. But you know, I think that that's how it works. And it's my pleasure to be here. And it's always wonderful to learn from all the panelists and the pitches. I really love the format when the companies come and do it. And so I would love to see more companies come in and pitch right after our conversation, because I think they get so much value add from just what we're saying, advising them, but also I believe that it's a great way to raise funding. Absolutely, and it's also a great way to reach a large audience. You know, no shameless promotion, but a little bit. You know, when you are pitching a company, these are great
great opportunities to do so. You get concentrated time, and you get a huge live audience. So if you're looking for a wide range. Now, if you've got something that's very proprietary and something you don't want to share with a lot of people, different story. That's why we're all available 24/7, 365 online to hear from you. But if you do have something you want to do, you share, and we will see that a little later today. This is the spot. Thank you, Irina, for the plug. All right, everyone, let's get into it. Everyone said that venture capital wasn't going to happen this year. Weren't going to be a lot of investments. Everything was going to slow down. Some reports say that things have slowed. Almost every other report says that it hasn't. Every email in my inbox right now says it is clearly not slowing down. Dan Primick from Axios, his email this morning alone, I have funding after funding after funding after new fund after this, after that, after this. It's clear to me this is not slowing down. We've talked about on previous episodes of VCTV as well that investors from a traditional side of the fund have a mandate to spend capital, a certain amount every year. Angels are a little different, endowments are a little different. Everyone has their thing, but when it comes to VC capital, you have to spend it. So I want to come to each of you as from your respective industries and regions around the world. What are you seeing in terms of venture capital? Is it slowing down? What's happening? What's not happening? Because again, here in the Bay Area and having the pleasure to see the world on a daily basis with each of you, my eyes, it's not slowing down at all. It's, if anything, speeding up. And I think the news cycle is just a little bit behind on catching up with that. So Irina, let's start with you. What are you seeing in your worlds right now? Where is the current state of venture capital in this new reality or this new era that we're heading into over the next year?
I see what you see as well. I see that things are speeding up quite a bit, and it did slow down. There was a lot of uncertainty, right? So for first 3 months, things were not so sure, and nobody really knew how things are going to unfold. But I think as we're moving toward the future, and especially kind of a July, things started accelerating. And I do believe that it is because due to the pressure of having to deploy funding. And of course, I think also there's a lot of pressure, and the creation of new funding explained through that is because a lot of money has been printed. And so, exit from liquidity, from money into venture kind of makes more sense now. I see a lot of people who were more conservative, people who were saving, are starting to say, you know what, I want to deploy this into something different. So a lot of, and venture, if you're interested in, if you're not an investor and you're interested in investing, and let's say a space sector interests you, it would be very hard to go and start deploying into the space, because how do you know about it? And so that's where funds like Space Fund come in handy, because then you can just, give them $1 million and know that they will get a great diversified portfolio and a space exposure in that. And I think that plays a big role. Funds are definitely writing checks. And most importantly, what I see that is a big move, funds are opening up more to deploying virtually. So majority of people do not want to see anybody in person. And because they have to deploy, they now are accepting the Zoom calls, the Google meetups and whatever it is. And I think that is something to keep in mind, because that is a new opportunity for most part. There are VCs that were already practicing this before, but now it is the norm. And I think that probably at first slows down things, but once VCs are finding the new systems to be able to work with the new standards, if you would, I think that actually expedites things, because you eliminate the need to drive somewhere, to walk somewhere, to sit down and eat, to have countless meetings. It's kind of more down to business now.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point. We're going to get to this in a minute, but I've actually heard a little bit of not necessarily a pushback, but a little bit of questioning from some investors who've made many of these these non-in-person investments, right? And not having the chance to build that relationship, and instead just doing Zoom meetings. So I want to get each of your takes, and I'll come back to that in a minute. But Mark, to you, and thank you, Irina. Mark, to you, what are you seeing as kind of the current state of things? I mean, you sit on multiple sides of funds, and specifically in the blockchain crypto space, as we've spoken about before. But what are you seeing maybe a little bit even further than beyond that as the current state of fundraising?
Before I go into some of the details, just jumping on the point of the relationships, I think it is very, very important. And in a time where we can't meet in person, personal introductions, so introductions by people you actually trust, are unbelievably valuable, have been before, but are even more valuable now. I think it's really, really important to know who you're dealing with. And if you can't deal with the person, if it's a new friend and new contact, you want to make sure you have somebody in between. I think so, yeah, on the macro situation, we're seeing a lot of pain and a lot of opportunity. I think we're going to tremendous changes in a variety of areas. And as Irina said it earlier, we saw definitely the deer in the headlight moment where everything was freezing. We were trying to figure out how to deal with this new reality, the virtual pitches, the shifts in business, even the shift in business models. What we also realized is that with the money printing that is happening right now, there is a good argument that the stock price didn't go up 20%, but the dollar went down 20%. So sitting on cash is one of the questions that, if you want to maintain wealth, Ray Dalio had some really good thoughts on that as well, is maybe not the right thing. So, but how do you deploy it? And I think that's where we are getting to the point, as you said earlier, there's a lot of cash on the sidelines that is looking for opportunities to preserve wealth. They're looking for safe opportunities to preserve what they have and grow it in a reasonable way. So valuations have been one of the key areas we are looking at. And then it's really just, where are those areas of new growth? And I think we are living in a new world. We have adapted to the new world. We have done a variety of investments, anywhere from PPE suppliers to prime brokerage companies, right in single family homes. As Irina said earlier, people move outside of the cities. And warehouse space. There's definitely the newcomers, last mile warehouse space, large warehouse space, that are all well connected. Those are areas we have seen heavy inflows of capital just over the last few months.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And Gary, to you, I mean, what else are you seeing further? We talked a little bit about AI on previous episodes and machine learning and kind of that very deep tech world, but just in general, I mean, things have changed, right? It is the way it is right now. What are you seeing kind of shift and change?
Well, it's interesting, Kyle, because this morning I've been on a call with Dubai. I've been on a call with a large family office out of London. So the world has shifted because we've now used Zoom, LinkedIn, and the technology is available to get closer. And as Mark said, it is about the trusted network. But the situation is there's really three pieces. One is we need to do business because they're mandated to get the funds deployed. So door number one. Door number two is trust is critically important. But door number three is, let's go back to the fundamentals. And as I've said many times, let's keep it simple, stupid, right? You need to having revenue, having a great team, having a Delaware corporation that has an office in Silicon Valley where there's a lot of investors. I mean, it's a simple stuff. So if you have revenue, you've proven that you've got product market fit and the company's moving forward. The other thing is where I'm seeing there's opportunities today is I actually have an article coming out in Forbes on transportable AI models, the future of artificial intelligence. So if I'm in manufacturing and I'm using unsupervised AI, ladder networks, VAE, I can transport those models to health tech. And we haven't really talked about those kind of, think of it, Kyle, as an engine. And I'm just taking from one car on a racetrack to another car to be able to win another race. So those kind of transportable models are critically important. And we're actually exploring some opportunities with those type of models today. So I see that's a great opportunity. And in terms of investing, the early seed stage investors had continued because they were looking at things from a different lens. But the other side is the other investors don't want to be left out. And the family office, they don't want to be left out because they know if they don't invest, and think of the opportunities. Look at the digital transformation, how many different ways it's had a extremely positive impact on business. And if you want to invest, you don't want to wait a year from now when a company, as we said many times, 5 years ago, I started with Zoom and my friend said, oh, I was introduced by their VC. Why would you ever use Zoom? You've got Skype, you've got Google. Why would you do it? And look here, right? 300 million daily active users later. So now's an opportunity. Look forward, stay positive, and go out and get stuff done, get shit done.
I mean, you're absolutely right, and I think that kind of FOMO, right, the fear of missing out, definitely caught up with some. But we'll come back to that as well. Vikram, what are you seeing as kind of the current state of venture capital right now from your view?
Yeah, so I think it's quite an exciting time actually for venture capital in India. Of course, the last few months have been very interesting. If you look at, the lockdown in India started in mid-March, and the month of April was a kind of a shock for almost across the sectors. So April was really bad. May things started coming back on track. June was actually almost about 50% of pre-COVID times. And I think July and August, we are seeing that things are coming back to normal. What's also happening, if you look at the population in India and in the overall scenario, we are talking about 1.3 billion people in India. About 600 million of those people actually have smartphones, and almost the same number of people having internet connectivity. It's a pretty sizable population. We're talking about 800 million people in the middle income group, which is a huge consumer market in India. And we are also talking about almost 600 million people who still don't have bank accounts in India. So there's a lot of rural population which is actually banking using mobile phones through various platforms. So it's a very interesting dynamics which is actually playing here in India. And what has happened during COVID time, in the last 2.5 months, a company called Reliance, which is a multi-billion-dollar group in India, they've raised $20 billion. A group of investors led by Facebook, General Atlantic, and a few others who actually collectively put in $20 billion into the group to actually help access the opportunities and maybe even use WhatsApp as a platform to do online transactions and financial transactions. And with the kind of size of the opportunity which is sitting there, I think the market is kind of shaping up in a very, very interesting way. So we're actually seeing a point of inflection at this time. In fact, that's the reason the VCs are actually looking at this market with a very different eye and very different mind. And I think we ourselves are actually now seeing the market with a very different perspective. If you look at consumer companies, for example, and many of them are in our portfolio as well, if you were looking at a 4-year scenario sitting in February with pre-COVID scenario, and you look at those projections maybe sitting now, I think the slope is looking very different. So we're actually seeing a J-shape kind of a recovery of the companies. And this is primarily because the offline businesses are now moving to online much faster. And I think even if you look at the US markets, and I think it's probably taken a long time, almost like 10 years, to go from 0 to 15% penetration, and just took 4 months to go from 15% to 35%. And I think a very similar trend has happened in India as well. The shift from the offline to online buying has actually changed quite a few businesses overnight. And we have quite a few such businesses in our portfolio, online companies selling beauty and personal care products. The companies selling online jewelry, for that matter, is actually very interesting. Even during COVID times, people are actually buying jewelry online. And, even, for example, a company called Clovia, which is actually selling lingerie online, they're coming back to their pre-COVID numbers. It's primarily because of the size of the market and the opportunity out there. And therefore, lots of VCs are getting attracted to this opportunity, which is building up here. And we are actually seeing substantial amount of capital now getting allocated to this market. It's a very exciting time to be investing in this market.
Yeah, I mean, we've had others on VCTV really actually every day this week share that same insight. I think that it's a booming market by all means. I guess a quick follow-up for you is if there are those that are looking to get into the India market, because there's two directions, right? There's companies that are looking to fundraise globally, or companies that are actually looking to penetrate markets from a user standpoint, right? There's that one, user flow, which there's all kinds of angles, and I think you're bringing it up as well as the digitization, to Gary's point, of the way things have rapidly progressed. That's actually a lot easier than it was 5 years ago. Not that it's easy, it's easier. Due to so many people being online, you can now reach customers a lot faster than you could before. But let's switch sides. Investors want to come and start looking at making investments in India. How or what advice would you give to those looking to start making investments in this hotbed of investment activity right now?
I think if you're investing in India for the first time, if you haven't invested in India before, your best bet is actually to work with VC funds like us, or other investors who are actually investing in India. So we've been investing in India. I've been personally investing in India since 2008. And so it's not an easy market. It's a very complex market. There are different states, and each state has different cultures, different regulations sometimes, depending on what sector you're looking at. So it could be a very challenging market. So it's not easy for somebody coming from outside trying to invest in a company in India. So it's best to actually pick up people who've been investing in this market for a while, understand the market, have seen the full cycle exits, and partner with them, and then look for opportunities, and then enjoy the ride.
Yeah, I think I see everyone shaking their head, so I think you're spot on. Mark, I want to come to you. I mean, you run a few angel groups, and one in particular. Similar question to you. I mean, if someone wants to get into this space right now, investing in blockchain, and we'll just use that as the example. There's a lot that goes into that. It's not, again, as easy, right? It's a deep tech. It's also a little confusing with how much news is out there and how fast the landscape does change on a regular basis. Where and how should people begin to start looking at this space here in this new reality? And just for future reference, new reality, I'm looking at the next decade, right? Not talking about the next year, not talking about the next month. Let's talk about the next decade, because this stuff we're talking today, this is an early day framework setting the stage for our next decade ahead, which is incredibly exciting. And hopefully Skynet doesn't happen and the Terminator shows up. But nonetheless, Mark, all jokes aside, to your point, where does one start when wanting to get in the investment space in blockchain?
I think you mentioned quite well, blockchain is one of those, I think, well, it is probably the fastest moving and the most international space I have seen in my technology career of over 30 years. There's a lot of innovation happening, a lot of community building, but also, and I think we remember the crazy ICO craze, and it's happening right now in a special market of direct exchanges and called DeFi. A lot of scams that people have to be aware of. Having said that, there's a huge interest in capital to enter the space, partly as a hedge against the fiat currency itself. We just saw Grayscale announcing they have raised another hundreds of millions of dollars of investment from traditional investors, and also family offices, endowments, traditional investor groups that are going into that space. And what do they do? I mean, where do they put their money? It's usually Bitcoin and Ethereum, and nearly every investor can do the same. I mean, none of this is investment advice, so just to be clear. But just buying some Bitcoin, buying some Ethereum, in most countries, that is very, very easy today, with like dropping Coinbase, of course, here in the US. But I think there are a couple of other options to do that. But the real opportunities of strong growth are in the projects that are revolutionizing technology spaces. And really there, navigating it is extremely hard, and it depends on a global network of trusted friends. I mean, Irina and I know each other for a while. So there's people you can count on that can tell you what's really going on. And one of the reasons why we founded Codex 3 here in the Seattle area was a lot of my traditional investor friends, former bank executives, technology executives, people that are running hotel groups. They understand the blockchain space is where they want to be, but they just don't have the deep enough knowledge and global network to really understand what's happening. So we formed a group of like-minded investors. We are sharing due diligence. We are looking deeply into the specific companies and especially into the teams before we make decisions to invest. And then collectively we can make our investment decisions together. So we're really, it's not only one brain, it's really leveraging as much brain power on a global scale as possible for the individual that are part of the group. We just
And are you guys?
yeah.
Oh, go ahead. No, please.
No,
Please go ahead.
we just announced an investment into Goldman Sachs. Former Goldman Sachs employees have built one of the top prime brokerage platforms in Switzerland called Covario. We just invested in them as a group, and they're on track to managing over $1 billion of assets in the maybe even before this fiscal year. So there's huge opportunities in that space.
Small money, only $1 billion. I
Yeah.
mean, come on. We're looking at trillions and quadrillions over here. I kid.
For the
No,
first
that's
12 months. Come on, not too bad.
I
right?
kid. That's a huge a huge milestone by all means. So follow-up question: are you guys making investments or looking at investments in this virtualized stage that we have? Are you guys making investments over Zoom?
We definitely. I mean, but again, the Covario people were folks we've met in person in Davos, so we could build on top of that. We just made another huge investment in a PPE space. It has nothing to do with blockchain, but they collected $14 million in capital within less than a month from people, because the relationship, the people running it had a fantastic track record. They had the relationships, they had the contracts coming in. They had proven that they are reliable and trustworthy individuals over decades. So there was no issue for them to convince their network of traditional friends and investors to raise enough capital to build another $1 billion business in that space.
I love it. And Irina, same to you. I mean, from the space perspective, let's go to the stars. Let's get real deep on the technology side. I mean, for investors looking to enter this space or this industry, excuse me, for the first time, looking towards the next decade ahead, where should they be thinking? How should they be getting started in this industry? Because it is, again, similar to blockchain, right? It's a very deep tech, very maybe ununderstood yet, still learning.
Right. The important point I do want to point and to highlight Mark's remark is that blockchain industry and crypto industry can be very questionable to enter. And so space industry is not so. And so it's kind of if you're looking at a space industry, there's not kind of a constant trap for you to get sucked into some kind of a scam, right? Now it's just the nature of the gray industry, I believe, for blockchain, and that's not the point for now. So, but also space industry has been missing very important key. It's been missing communications to public and to investors that have not been in the space industry, which is also public, right? And marketing. So what happens in the space and how far the industry is developed is really not understood, right? Besides just kind of your Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, there's not much that's on the news that's happening, but a lot of development is happening. So my advice would be get involved with the venture fund that is kind of established in the industry to understand it. Because, for example, a first natural thing that people want to invest in is a launch, right? So another launch project. However, it's overfunded. It's so overfunded that it's overcrowded, and I would say that you really have to get lucky then to, to get returns on your investments. However, there are many different opportunities like supply chain, like, the gas stations in space and all kinds of other opportunities. So I think look for venture funds. Space fund, I really like space fund. Why? Because they have the industry leaders in it, so they have access to the best deals. They just closed Space Fund 1, so and deployed all the funding, and the companies that they were able to deploy in, it would be challenging to be able to go and find them, right? If now they're launching Space Fund 2, but what you can do if you say, you know what, I want to make my own independent decisions, you can follow these funds and see what they're deploying in and kind of start understanding that aspect of the industry. For example, Space Fund has a space rating on their website. So if you want to learn yourself and say, you know what, I can generate my own alpha, I don't need anybody else coming in, that's a great resource for you, because you can look by categories and see what is overfunded, what is underfunded, what area in the space industry still kind of is missing, right? So maybe you have a portfolio company that is applicable to it, because the thing about it is only rarely, especially in the space industry, it's just the space, right? To push the frontiers, and the boundaries. A lot of it has to do in the development of the land. And so interestingly, what we're seeing now is that the companies in the space industries pivoted. And before, if they were concentrating exclusively on building for space, for example, a pod for growing produce for a family of 4, right? So I like that one a lot. Of course, it's a portfolio, one of the portfolio companies in Space Fund. Full disclosure, I'm advisor of Space Fund, so full disclosure there. But what they have seen growth in is actually an adoption for building similar system here on Earth. And so while space used to be just B2B, now we're seeing amazing pivot in B2C, and a lot of these companies are now starting to say, okay, I have opportunities building something here on Earth for consumers, and then have basically almost 2 arms, right? Or have it developed here because there's a demand, and then going into the space. And so that's what I'm seeing in space. And I think that when we think about the future in 10 years, I believe that a lot of our lives will be changed due to the development in the space industry. And it will be changed from communications, so to ability to travel, at least in a lower, in a lower atmosphere, we'll be able to do it. But most importantly, I think it will be changed through kind of the way we eat food, the building materials that we use that last longer and more sustainable. So I think space is going to bring more long-term sustainability technology into our lives, because in space, you are being killed all the time. So you go to space, space wants to kill you, okay? And that's just it. And that's the reality of life. So there's not much margin for error, right? The materials have to be solid. If you're going to go on a mission exploration with your family or 5 families and take off in space and go find something, you want to make sure that your food production is solid and it's sustainable, so it can sustain many generations past that. These are non-existent things right now, but they are all opportunities in investments right now.
Absolutely. And Gary, to you, thank you, Irina. Gary, to you, I mean, when it comes to artificial, and let's even go a little bit deeper on with machine learning and just data in general, where should investors be looking at over the next decade to start placing those bets and getting really getting set in this industry? And we're after this, we'll get to the second half of the show, which should be pretty exciting as well, but I'll let you jump in.
Yeah. So, I mean, just think about this. Peter Diamandis wrote a book The next 10 years will see more change than happened in the last 100 years. And the reason is very simple, the convergence of the technologies. We talk about artificial intelligence, and I talk about artificial intelligence as not only the new electricity, but transportable models. The convergence of AI and blockchain, AR, VR, AR, XR, I mean, you name it, what we've got. And then on the other side of it, we've got quantum computing. We've now dramatically increased the processing capabilities. So they, Gartner said that 1 in 5, this was about 6 months ago, 1 in 5 non blue collar workers would be influenced by AI. But quite frankly, I think 95% are now because of Zoom, because we're using the technologies, right? Or 99%. So, and yet we use Google, right? And of course, Google and Facebook are all using sophisticated artificial intelligence and machine learning. So our lives are dramatically going to change, and it's going to affect every vertical industry. I just had a conversation with a group out of Russia. They've developed self-driving tractors. The efficiencies of the tractors to be able to do agriculture is dramatically increased. And they did that as a starting point because now they're using a different kind of technology, not LiDAR, to be able to go out and for self-driving cars, right? So our world's shifting. I was with Magna. Magna is a contract manufacturer for Toyota and BMW. So the new Toyota Supra, they manufacture in Graz. I saw the future in terms of the self-driving cars using AI. They reconfigure themselves. They'll come to your door. They're delivering flowers. It's one vehicle, reconfigures to go to the airport to pick people up. It's going to redefine the insurance industry because guess what? Insurers are not going to want to give insurance to individuals. They want to give it to somebody that's a lot safer. So premiums are going to go through the roof. And then look at health tech and longevity, the convergence again. Health tech, we are going to live longer. I did 6 years. I went to Stanford University with some MBA students. I took some time off in the summer and I went over with a joint program with Russian MBA students and Stanford students. And we talked about living to 120. It's reality, it's happening. So our lives are changing. So in terms of the future, look for the convergence, look for artificial intelligence applications. It doesn't matter if it's in space tech, manufacturing, et cetera. Our lives are changing very, very quickly and it's upon us. So look at those technologies that are having a profound impact.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's an echo of what everyone is saying as well, right? We're seeing this convergence in many different ways, whether it's from technology to, markets and regions in general. I mean, Vikram, what he was mentioning around what's happening in India right now, you're seeing a massive convergence in so many different ways. With what Irina and also Mark mentioned, we're seeing these worlds again from a deep tech to very big industrial or the IIoT, as we've talked about in previous episodes, or Industrial 4.0. All of this is finally coming together. And what's very ironic is all of us here have been looking at this or talking about this for decades in some cases, and maybe even more so in the last decade. And it's finally starting to be here, which is so exciting. And now it's going to be even more exciting to watch it flourish, watch it all come together, right? There's so much excitement that's happening, but at the same time, you've got to do your diligence. You've got to do your homework. You can't let the headlines, you can't let the excitement, even from us, sway which way you're looking or how you're looking at these things. You need to figure out, you need to do your research, make sure you understand not just the technology, the products, the services you're looking at, but also research the industry that you're going in, talk to the experts, talk to your partners, make sure that you're able to provide support, provide resources, really give back to those companies. And if you're looking to enter a new region, specifically India, reach out to Vikram. But if you're looking to reach out to a new industry, to a new region, start with those that are already there. Don't try to go at it alone. I can tell you, as we all can, it's expensive. It's going to be way harder. It's 100 times harder. And if anything, it's probably going to be a failure faster than you would want it to. Instead, work with those around you. This world, to Gary's point, this world is more connected than ever. Leverage it, collaborate, Now, with that being said, I want to pause real quick. We're going to get to the second half of the show. We've got a special guest who did not Zoom bomb us. He's actually a special guest. We have a startup who's joined us on his virtual stage, wanting to pitch us his company. Andrew, welcome back. It's great to see you. So I'll let you go ahead and get your presentation queued up. And as Andrew does, so the way that this will work to our audience. So Andrew has come onto the show as a startup to join us on the virtual stage. Stage is being set. Curtain is about to rise. PowerPoint's being warmed up. He will have 5 minutes. Andrew will have a hard 5 minutes, and Elaine and I will cut him off afterwards. 5 minutes to share his presentation, share about his company with each of us. After his 5 minutes, we'll go around and give feedback to Andrew about his presentation and his company. And you, our live audience tuning in, can follow up as well, drop questions and comments into the chat box. And if we're not able to ask them in real time, we'll make sure that Andrew lets us know where you can continue the conversation online. And then we'll get to the lightning round and we'll wrap up. So we'll get to the best has yet to come, as they say. Andrew, are you all ready?
Yeah, let me get some better lighting here. Sorry about that.
All good. And you have a presentation for us as well
Yeah,
today?
I do. Yeah, let me share my screen here.
All right.
And
wonderful. All right, Andrew, the floor is yours. Go ahead and get started. We've got 5 minutes on the clock.
all right. So I'm the founder of Tune.fm, and Tune.fm is a music streaming platform and micropayments marketplace for artists and fans to be able to interact directly. And so as music is streamed, micropayments are streamed directly into the artist's wallet. So we're cutting out the middleman. And so our mission is to democratize music for all by leveling the playing field, allowing artists to control their rights, and essentially enable them to earn a living so that when the music gets played, the artist gets paid. And so the music market has gone through major shifts in the last few years. It's now growing after a few decades of decline, and that's mostly driven by streaming, up 34%, and that's dominated by Spotify and Apple Music and a few others. But the problem is that PROs and publishers still squeeze artists, and artists get less than 10% of half a penny per play, which is virtually nothing, and sometimes takes months or even years to make those payments out to artists. So we started with just the basics of creating a social network and music streaming platform where any artist can, from anywhere around the world, can come directly to us and upload their high fidelity lossless masters. And we have a non-exclusive hybrid license that allows them to stream and earn jam tokens directly from the people streaming the music. And everything's algorithmically sorted, so you can discover new stuff based on what you're interested in. And so how are we doing these micropayments is we search far and wide for the best distributed ledger technology to build our own token on top of. And we came across Hedera Hashgraph, which has the lowest fees, which allows micropayments to be possible, as well as lightning fast throughput speed, which is super important, and really robust consensus algorithm, which is asynchronous Byzantine fault tolerant. So therefore, it's a sort of consensus finality instead of probabilistic model like blockchain. And so Hashgraph is actually not a blockchain, but it is a distributed ledger technology, more similar to a DAG, which IOTA is. And so we built the first token protocol for Hedera Hashgraph, the only scalable token protocol. And it's really different from ERC20. We've really built upon that standard specifically for Hashgraph to create a decentralized ecosystem for micropayments between artists and fans. And so as music is streamed, artists are paid on a per second basis. So if you stream 23 seconds of that song, they're getting paid for exactly that much. So this is a really seamless pay-as-you-go business model where the payments are happening automatically, and there's no authorization or hitting the credit card and any of that. So it's a totally new way of doing things. And so our model allows for both artists and fans to be rewarded. So the fans can get paid for discovering new music that artists are promoting. And of course, artists can get paid as fans stream their songs again and again. But artists can control the split between their band members, and they control their rights. And we are also working with labels and licensed artists, and all of those agreements remain intact. So we also have gamification and micro incentives for reviews and different badges and levels and referrals and all kinds of different stuff within this ecosystem and marketplace, which really makes the whole experience engaging and gives the fans more opportunities to earn. So we created this sharded token protocol, and without getting too technical with the limited time, it's basically a parent-child architecture where all the transactions are routed through the parent, and we validate every stream, and we've simplified the UX for onboarding onto a new wallet where there's no sort of private paper keys that you have to write down, and it's just a normal user password experience, and we have a recovery process with multi-sig. And so this is just a quick view of the wallet UI where you can see the Hedera keys, and you can also go to a third-party explorer to see all the Jam transactions. And you can see that every second of music is accounted for and is triggering a transaction. And we've processed over 30,000 transactions, and we've raised about 750,000 to date. So this is the team, obviously me, my brother, we're both developers. We also have 2 other developers, other parts of the world, really talented, have done amazing work. And we also have a very robust advisory board with Matthew Knowles, who's Beyonce's father, who owns Music World Entertainment, which is a large label with thousands of songs. And we've basically onboarded that entire catalog along with Adrian Fuza, top recording artist in Hong Kong, and some token advisors as well, and music industry folks. So like I said, we raised about 750 to date. We're raising now 1.5 with a safe T, which is basically a safe note with a token option with a $6 million valuation cap, 3-cent token price, and the first 500K, we're giving an additional 20% discount. And so we've done tons of showcases and all kinds of festivals and marketing throughout the time we've been putting this together. The company used to be called Hero.fm. We've now changed and rebranded to Tune.fm, but this is us presenting at the Hashgraph Developer Conference and the Helix Accelerator, which we were awarded 100K investment in Hong Kong to be part of the accelerator. So yeah, that's it.
Perfect. Just on time, Andrew. Thank you so much as well. Really appreciate it. It takes a lot to get up on stage, virtual or physical, nonetheless, and share what you're building with everyone. So thank you very much. Now, investors, I'm going to come to each of you for a little bit of feedback for Andrew. If you have any or just any general questions, maybe 1 or 2 questions each, so we can keep time as well. Mark, let's go ahead and start with you. Any questions or feedback for Andrew and his company?
First of all, Andrew, thank you for the update. It's actually, as an investor into Hedera Hashgraph, it's quite interesting to see you building on top of it. So we're following the project for quite a while, and it's interesting to see the positive momentum there. So thank you very much for sharing that. So my feedback on the presentation gave me a good overview of what you're doing. I think you have to be very specific of where you're what you're trying to achieve. What's the message you're trying to get and who you're talking to? You're asking investment, you're asking for investment equity in the tokens themselves. Are you speaking to the broader audience participating to make them aware? Just be very clear. It felt like it was a nice overview, but it was not very targeted of one specific outcome. So I don't really know what my follow-on actions would be other than, hey, this sounds interesting. So trying to make it actionable.
Sure thing,
right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Arena.
Yes, I agree with that as well. I felt like it was a good points, well presented, but it's, what is that I can do other than obviously raising money, but it didn't make me think of other connections, and that's what investors really like to do. I have a question. So is it all for the new songs that are coming in, or if you're enrolling kind of old songs, how are you planning to do with complexities of current licensing music system?
Yeah, so any licensed artist keeps the existing agreements they have in place. They're compensated in Jam tokens. And so part of the reason we're raising the money I didn't have time to get into is to be able to achieve liquidity with the token and list on various exchanges as well as ramp up the marketing and product development and engineering. And so when the token is actually traded and liquid, the artist will be able to cash out via an exchange. And basically the money that goes towards that label, if they're on a label, they would distribute that money like they would when they get a check from any other streaming platform. Whereas an independent artist can come directly to us, upload, and basically just get paid into their wallet personally.
Okay, so is it then it's dependent on a secondary liquidity, basically? The profits are dependent on how tokens perform on secondary market?
So the actual streaming rate, which I didn't get into in detail, will remain constant because there's a fiat peg. So right now it's pegged to about 0.2 jam per minute, 5 cents per jam token. And as the jam token value changes, we will keep that rate per minute and a fiat value constant. And so that's one of the algorithms.
Yeah. So an advice I would give from you in the presentation, to make sure that you clearly distinguish of how the monetization works, because that's very important. And I think another very important key is to make sure that you show that while your tokens will have secondary market liquidity on probably decentralized platforms, or whichever agreements you make with the centralized platforms. But I think that it's important to show to decoupling from that as well, because the world is injured through overpromises of this, this token is going to go to the moon and it's just going to be, everybody's going to be trading it. And so while there's benefits from that, I think that if you can demonstrate that without that, you can decouple that, it's a profitable business, then that becomes an additional interesting bonus. And by the way, I think that the industry will make it to where eventually the tokens will be more viable and alive and everything. But I think right now we're just a little too close to the pain that we have all received and observed. So you want to separate yourself from being looked at as a scam, right? Because that's what people think when they hear token, they hear scam.
Yeah. Think more consumer than crypto direct. And Andrew, I apologize. I'm going to cut you off right there because I want to make sure you get feedback from Vikram and Gary as we're coming to the top of the hour. So I apologize for cutting you off there. Vikram, go ahead. Any feedback or questions for Andrew?
No, I think I had a question related to monetization that I didn't address, but I think just one thing which I thought was important. I think your differentiation probably needs to come out more stronger because I've seen quite a few businesses addressing this market, and unless you are able to really showcase how you're different, I think it's very difficult for you to really get the attention of the investor. So, I mean, I thought something like this probably it's very easy for other players to come and do the same thing. So I guess that's something you may have to bring up more clearly.
Thank you, Vikram. Gary, any feedback or questions for Andrew? And again, Andrew, we are all available offline, and as Andrew is as well, if you guys want to continue the conversations.
Yeah, I've seen this before, and I've made comments before on it. So, but there's something about it that I like, but I'm not sure exactly what it is. I don't know if it's you, Andrew. I don't know. I think, the challenges I've said before is going after this market. You're going after this stodgy old market that doesn't want to change. And I'm not sure how much they're going to want to embrace it because they've got, it's like old school. And I don't know if you're going to be able to penetrate on that side. Irina makes really good points in terms of, concerned about the tokens and people thinking this might be a scam and not understanding how it really works. So you've got to explain that a bit better. And I don't know in terms of the competition out there. I haven't seen that. But again, I think you've got something. And in terms of differentiation and showing the value, you got to do something for me anyhow. I need to understand it better. And I've seen this twice. I don't even remember where I saw it the first time, in Hong Kong or someplace, but I've seen it twice, and I still have the same feeling, right? You got something? I don't know what it is.
Hi, thanks, Elena. Hi, everybody. I'm very happy to see you there. And
Andrew, I think that's on your screen. So if you, there you go. So if you, yep, all good, no worries. So to Gary's point, there's something, you got something. You got some magic. He's excited, but he's not sure how to connect the dots. So I would recommend reaching offline and getting you two connected, maybe following up on that. And again, Andrew, thank you so much. Real quick, if your mic is available, real quick, where can everyone find you and the company online? Super quick, because we're coming to the top of the hour here. So where can everyone find you online?
Tune.fm is the platform. My email is andrew@tune.fm. Also Andrew Antar at hero.fm. The company is called hero.fm. And happy to answer all the questions. And also with more than 5 minutes, I can easily demonstrate all the concerns and make it a really exciting opportunity for you. So happy to schedule something and follow up.
What wonderful. Thank you again so much, Andrew. Really appreciate it again. It takes a lot to get up here, as I've said. And we are all very appreciative. You've got 4 investors that have given you advice, who are all interested in trying to figure out how to further engage with you. So stay tuned on that. All right, investors, back to you. We had an awesome pitch from Andrew. Now it's time to finish this out. I want to get to just one big quick question as we come to close here, and that's advice. Talked a little bit about areas of opportunity, what's happening in this space, where everything's going or not. Advice for those companies that may be pitching on Zoom, those companies who may be looking to raise capital in these deep technology places that we're looking at or new regions. What advice do you have for the entrepreneurs out there that are looking to begin fundraising in this next era? Bakram, I want to start with you.
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge that entrepreneurs typically have is getting the time with the investors and also talking to the right investors. And many times they end up talking to investors, those may not have interest in their companies. So they need to do a lot of due diligence on who the right investors are. And also the limited time that they need to get their story right. So they really need to hit it in the first 5 to 10 minutes. I mean, it's not easy. It's very hard. But if they do their due diligence and understand what kind of investments they're making, I think they would be able to really go to the point exactly what the investors are looking for.
Absolutely. Mark.
Seconding what Vikram said, we are all getting bombarded with pitches all the time. So we make a decision if we're interested to even learn more or not within 30 seconds. So there has to be a very, very clear initial message that works. And then in every conversation going forward, I think there's some key tenets that are extremely important. Clarity of communication and keeping it up. It doesn't matter if it's a 30-second, 5-minute, or 20-minute presentation, always being super clear on the point on it. Especially in these times, transparency and being open is extremely important. I think as investment is a people sport and it's all about personal relationships. So anything that comes across as I'm not sure if I can trust this person is an automatically no-go. Even if it's just because you're trying to, I don't know, be careful or not overstate things or whatever, but just so be transparent, it will come out anyway. And personal referrals. Just make sure you are leveraging the people that know you the best. They don't even need to be investors. Might be people you have worked with in the past, but they can vouch for your character and being objective, giving an objective third-party view on you.
Absolutely. Gary.
Yeah, so in this new world order, we need to be able to present online. We need to use the right kind of lighting. Don't make sure it's not dark and light because it sets the wrong stage. Make sure, listen, this is acting 101 and you've got to make it interesting for the people that are out there. And so make it interesting. Hit the key points, the team, what kind of revenues you have, what your go-to-market strategy is, how the company's going to grow, and how you're going to make that investor money. It's like really simple. So make it exciting. Use your contacts, as Mark said. It's really important if you have a personal referral, somebody come in to vouch for you and say, listen, they're a good person. You might, talk to them because that has a lot of weight today in this new world order. Guess what? The opportunities are really, really good. Go get them.
Absolutely. Irina.
I agree absolutely with you guys. I think also I personally enjoy seeing that when somebody contacts me, I want to know that they did a little bit of research about what I do, what kind of projects I'm involved with, and kind of, it's very easy to then kind of communicate to me that they have put in time and that I'm not just copy paste, right, a message to whoever, and often receiving something that it's like, well, I mean, you obviously did not even care to open and look at my account for like 1 minute. And so I think make it a little bit personable, demonstrate if you have that 10 seconds of whether investor is interested or not. And I think it comes a lot in demonstrating that you put in an effort into connecting to this person, and that effort is you learn something about what they're doing. I love when people go and scroll all the way down on my LinkedIn and actually see what I did in Russia, right? Because it just demonstrates to me that they gave me extra 1 minute to just see who I am and what interests I have and what kind of companies I've been involved with. And then, of course, again, the personal, if somebody can then vouch for your character, and make sure you work to a short pitch. I love the 7-word description of what your company does. Like, you just have to have it. And then 1 short paragraph, 3-sentence expansion of it. So that way, when you're talking, I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Okay, I want to hear more. That's all. If you got me to, this makes sense, and I want to hear more, now you have my attention for next 30 minutes, and you can borrow deeper and deeper and deeper until the point to where I want to know more. Here's my feedback. Follow up on my feedback and come back to me. And that's the key. Follow up to the feedback that this investor gave you. Demonstrate to them that you are going to work with them.
Absolutely. And I'll just add context, right? We had a mention throughout yesterday. If you found an investor here on VCTV, make sure you mention that you saw them or heard them speak on VCTV. Not so shameless of a plug, but also whether you see, the latest tweet they put out, their latest blog post, you saw them at a specific event, connect the dots, just as they should be connecting the dots, or we would be connecting the dots with you as well. All right, guys, we are over time. So super quick, where can everyone find you online? Irina, you went last, so we'll start with you first. Where can everyone find you online?
Well, Crypto Superwoman is my nickname, or whatever you call it, username, whatever. So Google that, or just Google Irina Litchfield. You'll basically will just be flooded with links of everything. And the best way to get hold of me is whatever platform. I'm everywhere, and just make sure you, like you said, connect some dots.
Awesome. Mark.
Yeah, with that name, Google gives you far too many results. The easiest way is Twitter, at Mark M. Eberstein. Very simple. Follow, and I think we'll figure it out how to connect.
Super simple, easy. Gary, where can everyone find you?
Yeah, sure. Gary Fowler at LinkedIn, or Gary at gsdvs.com. I'd be happy to hear from people. Thank you.
Wonderful. Vikram, where can everyone find you online?
Yeah, LinkedIn, Vikram Gupta, Ivy Cap Ventures. So LinkedIn is the easiest way to find me.
There you go, everybody. You can find everyone on LinkedIn, social media, including myself at Kyle Lacotte. A big thank you to all of our panelists, all of our investors today. Really appreciate you sharing your thoughts and insights as to what you're seeing around the world around investment and venture capital. Also, a big thank you to Andrew for showcasing his company with us and with you, our audience today. And a big thank you even further to you, our audience, for tuning in. If you like what you heard, click subscribe, give us a thumbs up. Do reach out as investors. If you'd like to be on the show, thank you, Gary. We'd love to have you. Thank you, Vikram. Thank you, Irina. We'd love to have you here on the show. For entrepreneurs, if you'd like to join, thank you, Andrew. If you'd like to have the chance to get up on stage like Andrew did today and get your presentation out here in 5 minutes to our audience, along with some feedback and questions and connections to some great investors and a great audience, reach out. We'd love to have you. Big thank you to Elena and to the entire LA Token team for making VCTV possible every single day. Thank you, Mark. With that, I'm Kyle Lacotte, your host. We'll be back here in just a short little break to talk to you a little bit more about what's happening in the investment world, specifically around impact investing here on VC